Mr. Sensible. All right, let me start off with, I watched that video, or I actually watched it live with Dell from the Imaginary Curve thing, where he said you were too afraid to come on his show, and then you came on his show, and I thought that was very admirable. And yeah, he's just full of shit, and you dare to go on his show. But anyway, my hat's off to you, sir. Now, as far as what you were talking about with those two weirdos with that video from that science channel, you were saying that they're claiming the sun would have to be down here, or you're claiming the sun would have to be down here to make the shadow go up across the mountain. So the sun would have to be on the ground. You'd have to have that SPF 5000 sun cream. But then you're over here saying this right here is happening, where this would be the curve, right? The sun's coming in, the shadow is being cast upward across that, is what I gathered from what you're claiming. The problem is in the actual video, you'd have to see the sun on the face of this mountain casted the shadow up. That would require that this mountain sees the sun before that mountain. And that doesn't happen in reality. But if you actually take the drawing that you made, that drawing, and you kind of start adding up some numbers here, you'd see that the height of Mount Everest, if you can see, I don't know, this sounds bad here, has an elevation, right? The distance to that base camp has a distance, and you have a height for that observation. Now, when you draw this out to scale, this is a rough scale, but it'll come down and it'll intersect, right, at the ground, like you claim would have to be. The distance from there to there is about 16 miles. If I use the elevation from Mount Everest, the distance to, I think it's Dingbachi, and the height of Dingbachi. Now, I understand that in the video it's a mountain, so it would have a different height above that, see? So even if I make this height way exaggerated, I draw my new line, that's still going to intersect over here on the table somewhere, right? You kind of see it. We zoom in and pause. But see, if I go from an elevation of Mount Everest to the horizon, like you have drawn here, right? Even though the sun's not touching that, you have 208 miles of distance between this intersection and this height. Now, what would happen, I think, that this half of Everest, that's where that Bachi place is, this would never, ever, 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 at 16 miles away, be tall enough, or even 8 miles, to get into that beam of light from the horizon. That's moronic. Now, what I think you meant to say was this. See, where these mountains would be below the curve of the mountain, but see the shadows on the face of it. See? And then the sun would touch there first. And then it would touch there, and then it would touch down the face of this mountain till all of this was in the sunlight and the shadow was back here. That really happens. The sun touches the top of Mount Everest before it touches Dingbachi. So how can the shadow from this one go here before this sees the sun? That means the sun would have to be touching the top of this shorter mountain. That's not how it works. But I do have an idea on what happens, why the things in the taller mountains actually see the sun first.